assuming they're trained up. But man, putting the F-16 in like you said, like the double-digit SAM, not the good spot to be in.
Today, a senior administration official tells ABC News that President Biden has informed the G7 allies here that the United States has agreed to allow Ukrainian pilots to begin training to fly American-made F-16 fighter jets.
And I'm curious of what that. I mean, they have fighter pilots that fly, but to get them through training and get them spun up, I'm just like, here the transition course we have for guys flying F-16s or F-15s that come fly F-35s. I mean, they're here for a couple months, and like even at that point, we kick them out the door as wingmen. Yeah, such a bro.
Yeah, such a bro. Welcome, everybody, here with Fitty, and it's Rain. If you're listening to this on the Afterburn podcast, soon you'll be able to go over and listen to Chock Talk. This is our new podcast where you can go get just a weekly quick hit of what's happening out there in the world. You also can find us over on YouTube. Website's coming, as well as a newsletter where we promise we won't spam you, but you can find all the good little nuggets of wisdom. 50 probably still smells like jet fuel as he just got out there, got done defending freedom. And me, I'm just punching buttons here. So, 50, man, how's it going?
Well, what's happening, man?
Oh, it's just been an interesting couple weeks. It's been a busy couple weeks. I know you've been busy. I've been busy.
Yeah, a lot of traveling. So it's been good to connect again and kick out episode 3, huh?
Yeah, this is we're just getting after it. And I think with that, let's jump into the first kind of snippet, which was F-18 crash out in Spain. I know that circled the social media realms, but we'll take a look here. If you're watching over on YouTube, if you haven't seen it yet, again, you can jump over to our YouTube channel, which is linked down below, and check out the video because it's kind of sporty. So here we go.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you can see, I don't know, these guys look like they're, I don't know, what'd you guess, like maybe a mile and a half away or so? Kind of tough to tell. And he's looking like he's, I mean, just from his, it's tough to tell when he punched out.
Is that the dot? Yeah, I can't tell.
Yeah, the little speck. I mean, he looks like he can't be more than, his seat's like at 500 feet there, and the jet is like 70 degrees.
Yeah,
right hand, or it looks like it's in 90 degrees, 70 degrees of bank, and then 70 degrees nose low. That is not a spot you want to be in.
No joke, and especially for the guys that are around that stuff. Like we're talking fractions of a second, from where he got the parachute out. Made the decision to get out of the jet.
Well, I mean, a good point with that too, right? Like, I mean, probably nearly every ejection seat out there in modern fighters is a 0-0, so you can be at 0 feet, 0 knots, punch out, and clear the fireball. But still, in scenarios where you're 90 degrees nose low and just a couple hundred feet off or in a steep bank, you might not be in an ejection envelope to actually get a safe separation or a safe shoot for that matter. So I think everyone saw the F-35B crash back at Fort Worth in, was that January or February? Which was impressive to see that seat work because the way that jet, is kind of pitching forward. He's obviously on the deck. Granted, it wasn't a big fireball, but I'm sure guys. I've known guys who haven't made it out because the ejection seat had some kind of malfunction or, there was some other issue. So not a guarantee here. So awesome to see that the pilot made it out safely. Hopefully no major injuries.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you just take for granted. Like, we get in the jet, you do the walk around, like, you do the engine checks, you do stuff, but besides just looking at the seat, you really put a lot of trust in the guys that, the egress crews, and you just kind of hope and pray you don't have to use it. But, man, you're sure thankful when they do their job well and your seat actually works.
Yeah, man. Well, it goes back to that Thunderbird crash, was it like 2006? Seeing the video, he was an Eagle guy by trade, and then watching his hands move from, the side of the seat to the center of the seat, just a little bit. It's a fraction of a second, having that negative transfer back to the Eagle days.
Yeah, man, just the muscle memory. Yeah,
when you need to work, you need to work. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think next in the queue I got here, which was kind of interesting, the G7 summit in Hiroshima this past weekend, which ironically enough, I was there the weekend before last. So kind of wild.
Yeah, did you tour around? Did you see?
Yeah, got to go down and see the atomic dome, which if anyone, Hiroshima was not something that was going to be, on the travel list normally for me, but being nearby in Osaka and riding the bullet train, which is impressive, super quiet, super fast. It was an hour train ride down. Seeing the atomic dome, the bomb went off, I think 600 meters high, just slightly southeast of this building. I should share a picture of it if I was savvy enough tech-wise. Maybe I'll throw in the post edit here. They did a really phenomenal job, and there's a lot of, obviously, emotions tied with it, where some people want to just completely bulldoze and get rid of this building and erase the memory, but they decided to preserve it. So there's one building, and around it is still all the rubble and debris from the explosion. Then when you see the museum and things like that, it's quite wild. But again, it's kind of interesting, all the language barriers that go on. The hotel that helped us get down there, she's like, oh, the G7 summit is there this weekend. And we're like, wait, what? No, like, we don't want to go do it. She's like, oh, no, it's next weekend. I was like, okay, we can venture down. So
That's fun.
I digress. But I saw out of the G7 summit that President Biden announced that he would support F-16's going to Ukraine. This is a Associated Press article which highlights a couple of the facts from it, which was, I think, the key pieces for me that I noticed was that obviously we will train, and then it would be to be determined, I think, the iron, where it would come from, meaning where the F-16s would come from, and the number from that. But what are your thoughts on F-16s going to Ukraine?
Yeah, such a wild, this pendulum has really swung from, the day one of things kicking off, and then it's like it digressed to like trench warfare, shooting rockets and missiles back and forth to, Vipers in there. I'm curious, we talked a little bit earlier about what does that fight look for like them to use, like, assumption being like they get a squadron of F-16s, assuming they're trained up, but putting the F-16 in like you said, like the double digit SAM, not the good spot to be in. And I'm curious of what that. They have fighter pilots that fly, but to get them through training and get them spun up, I'm just like, here the transition course we have for guys flying F-16s or F-15s that come fly F-35s. They're here for a couple months, and like even at that point, we kick them out the door as wingmen.
Right.
It takes, just hours experience, not just like, and you can teach people to fly, but the whole like employment factor and how do you survive and how do you threat react and how do you do all those things. It makes you think like it's like a news flash thing that goes across like, cool, we get them training in F-16s, but I'd be curious to see what the end result and how long that takes. Like, are we talking like a year before they're doing anything successfully, or is it, you hate to put them in a death trap of like 6 months, put in the plane and good luck, kick them out the door.
It's not like you're just giving them a shoulder-fired weapon and training them up on it. But you just think like the infrastructure, the maintenance, shout out to all the maintenance guys and gals out there. But like the only reason those planes keep flying, and they take a lot of work, the maintainers, right? But I think, you hit the nail on the head. For my concern would be the training and employment aspect. One, your country is at war, so you're going to get a quick spin up in this jet, go back. The F-16 is an easy plane to fly, I think. Probably most F-16 pilots would say that. It is a challenging plane to employ, depending on the environment, which
sure,
I guess in Ukraine would probably qualify in my book as a challenging environment to go raging around and trying to employ air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons, and not to mention stay alive in a double-digit SAM ring.
Yeah, just the assumption, like, let's say there's no air threat, no ground threat. They just have to go from point A to point B and employ weapons to do something. It takes a while to learn, and then you throw in some type of like defensive counter air that Russia would throw up or someone else, and then in like some type of SAM, engagement zone too. Like that's a lot. It takes a long time for us to get our fighter pilots ready to do that. I'd be curious of what that training would look like for them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of complexities. It's more than just like, hey, we're going to give you F-16s. Now, they're on the face value of this, maybe it's something to show further support for Ukraine by doing it, but it's not an easy thing to just go, hey, here's a squadron of F-16s. Good luck.
Yeah, you got this. We're
and
all
then-
counting on you.
I'm guessing too, these F-16s, it's probably gonna be coming from, foreign military sales. So other countries who've been flying around F-16s for a while and they're upgrading to F-35 or whatever it might be. So you're also going to get a hodgepodge of F-16s. It's like, well, this one doesn't have an upfront control panel with this and that. You're just going to get all this weird stuff. So
Yeah.
again, we'll see.
Yeah.
With that, but who am I to say?
Yeah.
And then the other interesting thing with there's a lot of stuff that's interesting with Ukraine, but Patriot missiles.
Yeah, I'll share. I mean, they've released a little while ago about things that they were going to start sending over. I got this video. Ukraine has its own like Twitter feed, like Defensive Ukraine. They kick out, and it's always like the videos of like the highlights of what they do. They're constantly posting like, here's how many jets we shot down. Here's how many people we killed. But this one, no joke. Let's see if I share it. But they recently, so I guess we sent over the Patriot battery. So for those listeners, it's our own surface-to-air missile, homegrown site. So they created this video I'll show. It's basically a highlight reel. It's probably like the first one showing up. So they show the guys. I'll let it play, but they show like basically delivery, and then I'll show you a clip at the end, which is kind of funny, where they're interviewing the guys about what they hope that first target is. But here's a quick recap.
Have you been in a Patriot missile battery, by the way?
Never. Have you seen it?
Yeah. Which was anticlimactic, and I'm sure there's different like blocks and upgrades, but
yeah. So then obviously there's like the highlight reel, but the interesting I'll play to like here they're interviewing these guys. What's your dream first target?
What's your dream
The
first
Su-35,
target?
like taking them down. So I think the Tridents are showing that they, the more things they shoot down, it sounds like they put that on there. But I'll stop that there. But it's kind of interesting, like how that thing shows up.
Was he saying those Tridents for S-300 missile shoot downs?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's what I gathered out of it. So basically, like we're gonna throw those on, start painting the size of our Patriot battery with that as well too.
I know the Su-35 is probably causing a lot of pain, but to not make light of it, but I was actually talking to my dad today because he went with me to the Dubai Air Show, and the Su-35 was there and got a tour of the Su-35.
Oh, wow.
But, it's doing some crazy maneuvering. The difference between that and the Raptor, the Raptor, that's a full-up combat-capable jet doing a demo. The Su-35's out there, and they're in Dubai, they're very particular, like down to the second, for how long you flew or didn't fly. And I was very keyed into this, more so than I ever would, right? But it's like pride myself to land within plus or minus 5 seconds of a demo, which is usually pretty dynamic. And they were all over the place because they don't fly with full internal gas. So ironically enough, my dad today, of all things, has nothing to do with this. He goes, "Do you remember that Su-35?" He's like, was I seeing it right? Like, was it like just turning and pointing and doing it? I was like, yeah, it was. And I kind of go through the whole F-22 explanation, but I was like, do you remember that Indiana Jones? I think it was Last Crusader.
Yeah.
He's like the guy's out there wielding his knife, like spinning around, stuff like this, doing all this fancy stuff in the market, and Indiana Jones just pulls out his gun and shoots him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
C-35. Like, that thing is so big, it's not stealth. Like, it's going to get shot by a Viper wingman like 80 miles out, you know? So,
yeah, no kidding.
And then they're saying with that Su-35, or sorry, with the Patriot, it shot down a hypersonic missile. So coming out of, I think this is NPR, saying that Ukraine said on Saturday that U.S. supplied Patriot missile battery used to intercept an incoming Russian hypersonic missile over the capital of Kiev.
Yeah.
I believe it was the first downing of a sophisticated Russian weapon and Ukraine's first use of the U.S. defense system. So obviously a lot of chatter about hypersonic weapons.
Yeah. That's quite the headline. Like, one, Russia's using hypersonic stuff, which is obviously newer things, super fast. And then the fact that they're claiming that the Patriot was something that intercepted it, which is interesting when you think about like what an intercept profile would have to look like to to nail a hypersonic weapon.
I mean, it's like shooting a BB to hit a BB from like 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's moving at like Mach 10.
Yeah. Dudes and dudettes with like super thick glasses making stuff happen. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. So I guess it's a good news story. If it no kidding was the Patriot that shot it down, then
Yeah.
it's good because we use those too.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's all I had. You got anything else on your end for this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'll close up. So I guess since we're talking about the Russia stuff, super serious topic. But in Russia, unfortunately, for those individuals out there, I guess they started there's the conflict of not everyone in Russia, I guess, is behind Putin and what he wants to do. And so I saw an article about like a mass exodus and guys leaving. So they started like apparently closing down borders and like starting a draft. But this article, I'll save the punchline for it until it shows up, is unfortunately for the men, Putin has now said that if you are planning to change your gender to prevent being drafted in the Ukraine war, the parliament is expected to crack down. So if that was your plan to get out of there, this homeboy right there decided that he is not of the wokeness and is not okay with people changing genders, so he can send them to battle, I guess. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's one interesting way to get out of a war. I can't imagine how drastic that would be to if that is your plan. Whether maybe people are already leaning that way and planning on doing transition, or if that was no kidding. Like, I'm not going to war, and it's not worth staying a guy.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
Yeah, either way,
wouldn't be for me. But
yeah,
it doesn't sound like it's going really well for a lot of Russian conscripts and things like that. But
yeah, no kidding.
Now we're going to be.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I think that was a little quick hit of the Chalk Talk podcast. More to come.
Can't wait.
I'm excited, man.
Good seeing you,
Make sure if you're listening, again, you hit the follow button, you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.